What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dylan, and today we finally get to tackle The Last of Us Part 2. I've been working on this game for the last couple of weeks. The footage you're seeing here is actually from my live stream, and if you want to hop in on those live streams, I got the Twitch link down in the description below. First and foremost, I will say this, I did enjoy the game. This is going to be a overall positive review of the game. But I'm gonna keep it real with you. When there are things that I dislike, I'm gonna keep it real and I'm gonna say it. So yeah, we should have fun though. This is gonna be a fun discussion, a fun game to talk about. So all right, let's go ahead and just get right into it. Let's talk about the visuals here because this game is gorgeous. I don't really care how you feel about the game, hate it, love it, disgusted by it, you know. I think we can all agree that this is probably the most beautiful game we've ever seen, ever. From the character models and animations, down to their facial expressions and small details in the environment. You know, the amount of work that went into this is insane, absolutely insane. So I gotta tip my cap. These guys pulled off what is an absolute masterpiece. And if I could just briefly touch on the sound design in this game. Sound design was amazing. You know, one of my favorite things to do in this game was to craft and upgrade my weapons at the workbench. I think that is kind of the best example I can give for how good the sound design was in this game. You know, you can literally hear when they're cocking back that pistol, you can hear the springs on the inside of that weapon, you know, getting compressed. And when she undoes the latch, it just springs forward and just metal on metal clacks together. You can hear the slide of the magazine as it's going into the grip of the pistol. It's amazing. And as far as the world building, I mean, we will touch on this a little bit more later on in the video, but I just wanted to say that this was my favorite post-apocalyptic setting I've ever seen, whether it's movies, TV, or video games. It has always intrigued me to see what people can come up with and what they feel like a world will look like 15, 20, 25 years after a massive catastrophe. And yeah, Last of Us 2 absolutely nailed it. But we got to move on here. Let's go ahead and talk about the gameplay. I will say that the gameplay isn't really anything revolutionary, nothing insane going on here. It's kind of just you either stealth it out or you go in guns blazing. You do have to manage your ammunition throughout. Resources are scarce. Tons and tons of looting throughout the game. Again, nothing revolutionary, but it was pulled off well. I got quite a bit of satisfaction when I walk into a room and see like 6 rags, 5 bottles of water, a bunch of weapon parts, and I just go through just mashing that triangle button, just snatching up every single piece of material that I see. It is very satisfying to do that. So, you know, the looting was great. The combat felt pretty darn good. I am a terrible shot, so maybe that's my problem. But overall, combat was good. You upgrade weapons, and they feel pretty considerable with each upgrade. I do feel like my character got stronger. They have skill trees that you can upgrade when you find pills throughout the world. There were some skill trees that I just flat out ignored, but I'm sure that's just kind of personal preference. And if I searched every single room, maybe I could find enough pills to max out every skill tree. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below if any of you guys have maxed out every skill tree. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but yeah, there were some skill trees that I just didn't find to fit my playstyle. So those were my brief thoughts on the visuals, music, sound, and some of the gameplay. But this is the true meat and potatoes of this video. We're talking about the story, what I thought of it, and let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about the first touchy subject, and that is Joel's death. Okay, that is Joel's death. First and foremost, let me say this. Overall, I loved the way that Joel went out, but I have one critique here. One quick critique I'm going to throw out there. The way Joel got in this situation was a little bit silly. Okay, he's lived for over 20 years in this post-apocalyptic wasteland. Okay, he knows the rules. He knows the rules. When you meet strangers, you do not invite them to your village. You do not tell them your name and try and get buddy-buddy with them. Okay, now in this situation, these strangers did save his life, and I understand that. But I feel like they get in this building with these people, and they're like, "Oh, you should stop by our place. We live down in Jackson, right down the street, right down there. You should stop by and resupply before you go. Oh, and by the way, this is Tommy. My name is Joel." And it's kind of like, dude, like, whoa, calm down, buddy, calm down. And that's all I have to say about that. I thought it was a little bit silly. I feel like that's kind of a rookie mistake right there for Joel. But whatever. It's not game breaking. It didn't piss me off, you know. It was just, I kind of gave it a little chuckle, like, okay, that was kind of weird. But moving on. But let's actually talk about the way that Joel went out here and why he was so perfect. Why he was the perfect tone setter for this game. Okay. A lot of people wanted Joel to go out like a hero, you know, taking a bullet for Ellie or sacrificing himself in some way to save others. And that would have worked. That would have been fine for sure. But I feel like the direction they went here is they wanted to set the tone for the rest of the game. That this game is going to be dark. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be hard to look at sometimes. And that is the reality of The Last of Us, of this world. This world is unforgiving, dark, and gritty, and you better be ready for it. So to see Joel, you know, the hero of the first game, get beat to death with a golf club right in front of Ellie, I remember being like, holy shit, I better buckle up. You know, that's the kind of feeling that I got. That's how I perceived it, is I gotta buckle up. I'm about to venture out into this world full of people who will beat my dad to death with a golf club. You know, that is the world I'm entering right now as I'm playing this game. So for me, I think that's what they were going for. Again, this is a subjective thing. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Joel's death. I remember when it happened, I had people in my live chat saying Joel deserved better. And that is another argument that people have put out, that, oh, he deserved better than this. And I mean, I don't know. Did he? Joel really had his hands in the deaths of millions of people who were living at this moment in this time. I mean, we don't know how many people were left alive on the planet. I assume at least millions, you know, somewhere within the millions. But now we're talking billions and trillions once you start to incorporate future generations that have yet to even be born yet. Joel affected their lives too. So to say that Joel deserved better, I just don't agree. I love Joel, don't get me wrong. He's a great character. He's an iconic character. You can sympathize with the decisions he made in the first game, which is why that game was so good, because you sympathize with a guy who made a horrific decision. But at the end of the day, I think he got what he deserved, to be completely honest. I think he got what he deserved. So I didn't have a problem with the way Joel went out. In fact, I loved it, and I think it set the tone for the remainder of the game. Next, we're going to talk about Ellie and her character. A lot of people were saying that this is not the same Ellie that they remember from the first game, and I would agree. There were times where I do wish Ellie was that peppy, kind of snarky character that we grew to love in the first game. But with what's happened to her and the information that she found out about Joel and the trauma that caused her, I can understand why she's constantly stressed or depressed. In the first game, she was peppy and more upbeat and joking around all the time, you know. But in the first game, she had a goal, and not just any goal. She thought she was going to go out and cure the entire world of this virus. She was working towards something. Her and Joel were working towards something that was truly going to make a difference. Whereas in this game, her end goal is to kill somebody, and once she kills that person, that's going to be it. It's not going to bring Joel back. She hopes it will make her feel better, but even then she doesn't really know. She's just out for revenge. You know, this isn't a happy story this time around. In the first game, you could argue that, you know, they went through hell, but if at the end of the day they create a cure for mankind, then that is a happy ending, and that is something to be celebrated. I will say I do wish she was a little more peppy and happy, as I said, but it is what it is. So I will take a couple of points off of that, off the score, you know what I'm saying? But overall, I understand why Ellie was the way she was. I wish she was a little more peppy, a little more happy and joking around here and there. But the context of this game, there was no real reason for her to be happy. But hey, this is a subjective game. If you disagree with any of my points, that is totally fine. That is your opinion, and I can't take that away. So next up, let's talk about the way the game was organized. How in the first half of the game you play as Ellie, the second half of the game you play as Abby. So first off, let me start by saying this. If nothing else, for better or for worse, if nothing else, I praise Naughty Dog for trying this, for trying something different. This is a very interesting way to tell a story, and it's one you don't see very often in video games. I can't even personally think of an example where you play half or more of the game as the antagonist. I think is an interesting concept. They're going for something different, and I feel like they deserve praise for at least trying. Okay, for at least trying. Whether it worked for you or not, that is up to you. But here's what I thought about it. So to understand what they were going for and the message they were trying to send by splitting up the game into two, we have to look at the main theme of the game, I guess the moral of the story, that being revenge is bad, and living in hatred will only lead to more suffering and pain. You look at Ellie and Abby, and they actually have quite a few parallels, right? But the main one we're focusing on here is the aspect of revenge. Ellie is out for revenge, while Abby has already achieved it. Abby has already gotten her revenge on Joel, but you look at her playthrough and she's not necessarily any happier than Ellie is. She killed Joel, she succeeded, she did what she wanted to do, but it didn't really bring her happiness. All it did was piss Ellie off and in turn cause all of her friends to die along the way. You look at Ellie and her playthrough also is not happy. Ellie is also losing people. Both of these playthroughs show a character, one of which is out for revenge, one of which has already completed it and done it, and neither of them are happy. Abby is just a personification of what Ellie will become if she succeeds. And that's a very cool way to display the message of the game. I don't know how many people are going to catch that. I know if you watch my live streams, I think I commented on it a couple of times that really Ellie and Abby are kind of like the same person in a way. So that's a cool way to think about it. Again, I think the first thing that people thought in their minds was, oh, they're making me play as the antagonist, as the bad guy, because they're just trying to be different. And that is probably true to an extent, but if you look further into it and analyze it a little bit more, I think they're really just trying to hammer home the idea that revenge is bad. Look at Ellie, look at Abby, neither of them are happy. Alright guys, let's finally talk about the ending of the game here. And what we're going to do, I am going to give my impressions on how I felt, but then I want to give you guys a theory that I heard while talking to my brother about the ending. And this theory, while it did not affect how I feel about the game, it could very well change your opinion on the ending. So I do want to include that here because it's interesting, and yeah, it deserves to be in this breakdown here. So how did I feel about the ending? Well, it was both good and bad. I can say that it did cause me to tear up. It did make me cry a little bit. And any game that can evoke that kind of emotion, I think succeeds in some way, shape, or form. But I did have a large problem with just how long the ending was drug out, and that will coincide with the theory I have for you in a little bit. But I was not a huge fan of the California section. I did like the world building. I enjoyed seeing California and meeting these new characters in the Rattlers, those slave trading assholes. I liked all of that from a gameplay perspective, but from a storytelling perspective, I wanted the game to end in the movie theater. I feel like they could have delivered the same message that they did on the beach that they could have in the movie theater, and then end it with Ellie living happily ever after, if you will, at the ranch house with Dina and her child. But now let's talk about the theory, as it does tie into my main complaint about the ending, and that is the extension of the ending, the lengthening of it was intentional by Naughty Dog to frustrate the player, to cause the player to question, what am I still doing here? Why am I doing this? This game should have ended back at the movie theater. What is the purpose here? Okay, and those emotions that you feel as a player are supposed to reflect the emotions that Ellie is feeling in the game. If you go and look at Ellie's journal entries, she talks about how she herself is questioning what she's doing there, why she's so obsessed with Abby, and the fact that she gave up a great life to continue on this path of revenge. So if that theory is true and Naughty Dog was trying to evoke those emotions in the player on purpose, I can say that one, they succeeded because I was frustrated throughout that segment, and I can respect that. That's very cool. That's a great idea. Again, it doesn't really change for me how I see the ending. I still would have preferred a happier ending with Ellie at the ranch house and with Dina and the child, but I can respect the choices by Naughty Dog. If that theory is true, I can respect that. And maybe they could have saved the California portion for DLC. You know, you just follow Abby and Lev as they traverse through California and have to deal with the Rattlers. That honestly could have been its own little DLC section, or it could have been the entire start of The Last of Us Part 3. You know, we could have had a sequel game following Ellie and Lev in a new part of the country, and I think that would have been cool too. So I don't have a massive issue with what they did, and if the theory is true, that's cool. But my opinion is my opinion. I still would have rathered it end earlier in the movie theater. And so guys, that's it. That's all I have to say on The Last of Us Part 2. If I had to give this thing a score, because people love to score things, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. If the first game is a 10 out of 10, I give Part 2 an 8 out of 10, which is still a great score. I still absolutely love this game. I do recommend it to anyone who played the first title but is kind of nervous about getting the second one, as it has been very divisive. I recommend you get it, if for no other reason, to enjoy the visuals and the sound design of this game. I think it's well worth your money, even just based off of that. Story aside, I think this game is worth a purchase just for the amount of work that went into the visuals and sound alone. But I also enjoyed the story too, so take that for what you will. Guys, I'm gonna head out here, so like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, guys. Leave a comment down below what you thought about The Last of Us Part 2. Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Either way, it's fine. Your opinion is your opinion, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.